Oh, good morning and welcome to Live Impact News right here on 13 News Now Plus. It is 10:02 a.m. here on April 20th, 2026. It is a Monday morning. Welcome to another week. We're officially sort of on the home stretch of April, I think it is reasonable to say. A week and some change left in this fourth month of the year. And on this April 20th, we celebrate by introducing a new producer here on Live Impact News. Olivia Benner in the house. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
I did not mean to just bring up my whole face on camera. I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah, no apologies necessary.
Time doing this.
Kidding?
Listen,
that just made the show awesome.
That's what the people want. You gotta hop up on camera.
Oh, here we go.
You are good
This
to go.
is the camera that I wanted to take.
That's a good one too. See, you're already rocking and rolling. Like it's second nature to you already. All it took was one solo shot and you're ready to go. Now, Olivia, how you feeling about everything this morning?
I want everyone to just bear with me a little bit. It's been a while since I trained, but I'm feeling good, feeling confident. It's Monday.
Yes. You are one of our very experienced and accomplished producers of normal television shows. You are transitioning to do a little bit of Live Impact News producing, so you'll be seeing Olivia a lot more as time goes on. She'll be with us to start this week. And
you know I'm not one to overstep.
That
right.
I've never once heard you overstep.
So my name's Craig Moeller, and I'm a guest here with Live Impact News. Connor's personal guest.
We are paying him a lot of money to be
Olivia is
here.
amazing. She is a daybreak producer. She's been with us, and she's been doing the weather desk, and she is phenomenal. So welcome to Live Impact News,
Thanks,
Olivia.
Craig.
Yeah, I'm excited. We have so many great producers here and people that have a heart for news, and that's one of the things with Olivia. And both of you guys are like Philly fans, so that's like a whole other thing too.
That's right. This is a Pro Eagles podcast, though we did receive some very concerning news about the Philadelphia Eagles this morning, which is that it does appear as though A.J. Brown is going to be traded.
Really? I heard Jalen Carter was too.
That's, first of all, try to relax, okay? Second of all, if you want, we can talk about Chicago trading the Bears to Indiana. So, if you want to get into trades, we can get into trades. It's completely
Not
up
worried
to you.
about it. It's all posturing. All right.
Now, we will mention, since you brought that up very quickly here, NFL Draft this Thursday. Major event. We're going to have a great live show on 13 News Now Plus for that draft with Shane Fordham and myself and a few others.
I may have to come in.
Yeah, we demand that you come in. We will try to meet your quote. We may have to set up a payment plan. But I wanted to segue into that and now segue back to Craig Moeller for whatever he wants to talk about.
Yeah, we're going to talk weather here, guys. And the big news here, a couple of things we're going to talk about. We're going to key on the dry conditions. That has been an issue, and I think we're going to spend some more time talking about it. Let's talk about what happened over the weekend. Were you outside when it happened? Did you feel that cold front come through? It was really chilly. It went from the lower to mid-70s in the morning around 9:30, 10 o'clock. By 10:30, 11, it was in the 50s, just like that. So we got a big drop. Here's a look at the almanac, and over the last month so far, April, we started off so warm. Temperatures were in the mid-80s Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the first week, Sunday, the first week of April. Then we had that cold snap. Then we had the summer-like temperatures. Temperatures were breaking records Wednesday and Thursday of last week when we were in the low 90s. We did make it up to 87 on Saturday. Great beach day across the area. And then 73 for that high yesterday. And that's misleading because that happened in the morning. Yesterday afternoon's temps were stuck in the 50s. It was much, much cooler. So what's next? Well, we have temperatures today staying in the mid-60s. You can see we only picked up 0.02 of an inch of precip at the airport. So for the month of April so far, 0.54 total inches of rain. We need more rain, and this is one of the driest Aprils on record for Norfolk. Look at the temperature change in the last 24 hours. We are down 13 to 15 degrees across parts of the south side, 16 degrees cooler out around Franklin and Suffolk. Drop-off isn't as dramatic off to the north, but the bottom line is the cooler weather is here today, and it's here to stick around for 2 days. We actually have another shot of cold air coming in later this afternoon and into the evening. So temperatures right now, upper 50s to near 60 in Norfolk. Over the next 9 hours, we're going to see temperatures hanging in the mid-60s with a mix of clouds and sunshine. A few more clouds early evening and then clearing overnight. The UV index today, Connor, it is a 6. Is that surprising?
I thought it would be lower.
You thought it'd be a little lower
I
because it's
still-
early in the season.
Well, I still have that, I know the science, and I've been drilled down upon over and over again living in a beach community
Right.
about how this UV stuff works, but I still sometimes maybe can't get out of my head that if it's a little chillier, the UV's less, but that's just not the case. The
Yeah.
sun can be just as impactful.
No, we typically equate the cooler temperatures with the lower sun angle during the winter months, okay? But man, we had the vernal equinox. We already came through the spring equinox. The sun's direct rays are now falling in the northern hemisphere, our side of the planet. So those direct rays are starting to build across our region. On the weather desk this morning, we featured a story from the Poconos. It was Camelback Ski Resort. And again, up in Pennsylvania, there were folks skiing and snowboarding shirtless. I mean, they were out there. Guys were like, oh, this is amazing, right? Because they had mild conditions over the weekend, but still a lot of snow on the ground because they had so much from the winter.
Now, can I bring something up in regards to that?
Sure.
So I know that you prefer to ski shirtless, and I'm wondering, even if it's warm outside, I can understand as long as you stay upright, but once you fall, there's still harsh, cold snow on the ground.
When Connor said I prefer to ski shirtless, I do, but only water skiing, okay? One of the points I made for those folks up at Camelback Resort was that two things. One, all the snow that's on the ground reflects the sun's rays. So that's why if you ever see folks that come from a ski vacation, or if you go on a ski vacation, you'll see folks take off their sunglasses and they look like raccoons. They've got, the extreme sun on their cheeks, and their eyes will be usually protected because of the sunglasses or ski goggles. You got to have it because of all that reflected radiation. And then the other thing is if you fall, and you get this time of year where there's melt and freeze, you can get torn up pretty good.
That's what I'm saying. You got to throw the shirt on just for that.
Yeah, it's like getting a rash, falling on, turf or basketball, which is, again, why I try to keep my shirt on when I take the hardwoods.
But if you're out there, sometimes it's shirts and skins. You don't have a choice.
Yeah, I know.
I'm begging to get on the shirts team
I try
in
not to
that
scare
scenario.
the other people in the park playing, so I leave my shirt on.
And we got to imagine if you're out there skiing on April 20th with no shirt on, you're probably not falling too much. We got a bunch of experts skiing around out there now, right?
They're certainly enjoying it.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the deal. If you are outside, whether you're going to the beach or attempting to snow ski or whatever you might be doing, sunscreen, you still need it. UV index is going to be pretty high for the entire week, 6s and 7s for UV index. Also, allergy. Are you guys tired of me talking about it? It seems like it's been tree pollen every single day.
I've
for
had
the last
allergies
month.
my whole life, and this has been killing me. I'm over it.
Yeah, it's brutal. We've had extreme tree pollen. Today it's high. It's not quite as bad as it was last week, but still high. Grass pollen's moderate, and mold is low. So all those things giving.
Now, I want to ask
some
Olivia,
suggestions.
have you pinpointed your specific source of allergies, of all these sort of options?
No, because as soon as one stops, another thing I'm constantly sneezing.
Oh,
I'm
it's a
constantly
never
congested.
ending.
I'm taking a 24
Can you take the
hour-
high wide when you're talking to us here, Olivia? I bring this up because I want to point out something Olivia's doing, and I love it with all of our producers because they don't typically spend a lot of time on camera, but when she does, she gets up there and she talks like this. She's like, and coming up, I do.
Yeah.
You're good.
Listen, I don't know how far away or
You're
how close
perfect.
I need to be.
You're perfect. This is part of the hazing of our
Right.
coworkers.
If you're going to get introduced on the Live Impact News during a Craig Moeller segment, you're going to have some shots lobbed your way.
I have so much respect for the work she does. I'm just giving you a hard time. Olivia. All right.
Olivia, the first time I did Live Impact News, Craig went out, he slashed all my tires, and he filled my car up with cotton candy.
That's
it was
not
brutal.
a thing,
So
but I will say Connor still owes me hot dogs from a football wager we made at the beginning of the season.
That's actually accurate. I do still owe you hot dogs. You know what? We're gonna make that happen. We got the draft coming up. We're gonna make that happen. Just don't spread it to the entire newsroom community here at 13 News Now.
wants to partake in Connor's lost bet. All right, so real quick, a couple things that we're going to get into the 7-day, and then I do want to talk. We want to get serious here about the need for water because we do need some more rainfall. We did not get enough. I will say a small craft advisory going up for the Bay later today. As we go along, it's going to be a pretty good stretch of weather. Again, if you've got outdoor plans, not bad, but keep all of this framed in the mindset we need some rain. So when we talk about it, low risk of a shower today, only 20%. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, 61, up to 80 on Wednesday. There might be a couple of stray showers Wednesday evening, but even that is no real good chance. Only 20%, maybe northern neck, middle peninsula, maybe the eastern shore. Thursday, Friday, beautiful if you're going to do outdoor activities, if you've got plans. And then Saturday and Sunday, that's when we have a chance for showers. But even then, kind of isolated, only about a 20 to 30% chance. So just want folks to know two things with this extended outlook. It is chilly right now, all right? We have that frost advisory tonight. So if you've got any tender vegetation, if you live in some of our inland areas, you want to think about bringing those plants in tonight. And aside from that, enjoy the next several days. We'll eventually warm up. But when we do get the rain, and it looks like we might this weekend, our better chances, we need it. So, we just got to hold out and wait for that rain.
So the rain yesterday, did that give us any tangible relief whatsoever?
Nothing significant.
No.
I mean, a couple hundreds at the airport. And there were some slightly heavier amounts. My colleague Taylor Stephenson was watching her a little bit over the weekend. She was saying some areas by radar estimate got a few tenths of an inch maybe, but nothing significant for the airport. And most of the region really didn't see a lot. So we still need some more.
Okay, good to know. I think we're going to take a brief commercial break here. When we get back, we're going to broaden our horizons a little bit, talk about some major weather events occurring around the world.
Some pretty wild stuff going on. We'll break that down right after this.
Okay. All right, welcome back to Live Impact News here on 13 News Now Plus. We are going to stay on weather for this morning. We're going to continue with Craig Moeller here, but we're broadening a little bit here. We're not just going to focus Hampton Roads because there's a lot going on globally that requires our attention.
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about what happened this morning in Japan, okay? Or I should say just off the coast of Japan, to be really specific. We had earthquake detection, and there was a report of a pretty sizable earthquake. Reports have come out 7.4 or 7.5 magnitude. Both those coming in with a depth of about 6 miles. So this happened early this morning during daybreak. We got that report. And there were tsunami warnings that were up along the Japanese coast. You can see this was about 62 miles off the coast here. And again, a significant earthquake. Whenever there's an earthquake that close to the coastline in Japan, immediately they put up tsunami warnings. There are monitoring centers that monitor all the wave heights out there. I know one of the harbors reported a tsunami of 2.5 feet in height. Nothing significant to my knowledge that I've got reports on. Have you seen any updates, anything, Olivia, still? That was the highest one reported. They were at one point concerned that they could see a tsunami up to 10 feet. We have not heard any reports of anything that great. So that is good news. And at this point, the folks that monitor it across the entire Pacific are not concerned about any massive tsunamis propagating out towards Hawaii or the West Coast. So good news there. You always kind of hold your breath when you have these offshore earthquakes because those sloughs or landslides underwater, that's always a concern that could generate a quick burst or a series of tsunamis that can create trouble.
Is there anything in particular you can tell us about how residents would prepare for a tsunami other than leaving? I mean, what do you do?
So that's it. I mean, in the case of a tsunami, you have precious minutes to get off the coastline. I mean, folks have to take action immediately if it's a large tsunami. And when you think about it, when you think about a tsunami, what do you typically think of? You think of like what? A massive wave maybe moving towards the coast.
Right.
Okay.
Not quite.
Not
right.
really that. Tsunamis typically are series of waves that come in. But sometimes you can have a larger wave that comes in, and you can actually see the water withdrawing out a little bit before that larger tsunami wave comes in. And folks there that live in Japan, you think about, there's so much seismic activity, there's so much earthquake activity in Japan. They know, they've dealt with tsunamis before, they've dealt with these earthquakes, so they've got a very stout alarm system, and they are able to get warnings and alerts out. Folks here know, if we get the alarm, you don't wait, you don't waste time, you get up to higher ground immediately. And it's like here in Hampton Roads, when we have hurricanes, we talk about have an evacuation plan in place, know where you're going to go, know how you're going to communicate with your family. Folks here in Japan are prepared to deal with this stuff, and hopefully, as they deal with this stuff, alarms go off, they're able to get to safer places, they get the clear, and then they're able to return, and life goes on.
The way I would describe it is, because like you said, maybe sort of the cinematic thought is of a giant wave crashing into the town, but it's more of just like a unrelenting expansion of the sea itself.
Yeah, there's typically a series of waves that will build upon one another. And, where people get into trouble, they don't know that they're coming. And again, in Japan, they've got the warning systems up there. They know, but, there have been some tragic ones in less developed areas along the Pacific Rim. There have been some areas that have been hit really hard. You can think of like Indonesia. There have been some different locations that have been hit really, really hard. And the main thing is just keeping everybody aware. And I think with all of our technological advancements, there's more preparation. But the bottom line is if there's a warning, you got to go. So you got to get to higher ground and move farther inland. So that's what's going on out there. Again, the good news is that Hawaii and the west coast of the United States, even though it's so far away, these waves over time can spread out. And you always wonder, could there be an issue? Looks like there's a larger earthquake, not that big, but a little bit of an earthquake there off the coast of California. Let me just put a quick inquiry on this one and see what we got there. And it'll pop up here in just a moment. Yeah, that one at 4.7 down. That's pretty decent quake there off the coast of California. Again, these are all activities that are monitored closely, and there are different warning centers that do that. You can see all the earthquake activity. How about North Carolina? Looks like we saw a little one. That's a baby right there, but you can see not too far from Greensboro there.
Is that something people in that area would have felt?
We're going to find out. I don't think so. It looks like a pretty small one. But anytime I see a little yellow dot pop up over, just a 2.0, that's nothing.
Just a couple hours ago.
Yeah. But we
Wow.
do get a little bit of activity. And again, when you tune into 13 News, we have the ability to keep you updated on things going on with earthquakes, one of the many things that we're able to monitor from our weather center. A new one just here in southern Oklahoma. All right, one thing that is of greater concern impacting all of us, I want to come back to the drought situation because that's something that we talked a lot about last week. We were hopeful we were going to get maybe a little more precipitation from this round of wet weather with the front coming through yesterday. We didn't see much. And right now, look at North Carolina. We've got 3 different areas, one out west, out around Asheville, one just east of Charlotte, and another one north of Raleigh. 3 parts of North Carolina that are under extreme drought. They've had burn restrictions out there. Most of North Carolina is under severe drought. Not good. They need rain. That's why they've had some burn restrictions and some burn bans going on across the Tar Heel state. Up into Virginia, now we're seeing more of the Commonwealth under this severe drought. I will say for our immediate viewing area, as we zoom into Hampton Roads, you're going to find that we're under moderate drought. So not as bad right here in Hampton Roads or northeast North Carolina, but we do have our concerns. And earlier, Olivia, we ran a story on strawberry growers in Dinwiddie County. They're reporting, extra efforts to try to protect their berries, not just strawberries, but blueberries as well. They're getting to a point where they're having to spend a lot of money on the mechanisms just to keep them wet. You got to keep them hydrated. So they're hitting these sprinklers. You think about how all of this stuff can add up. They're burning through all kinds of diesel fuel right now to keep those big sprinkler systems running and those diesel engines fired up. Couple of things on that. You want these luscious berries. This is their livelihood. They need to have this harvest to continue to do that. And as consumers, we all love our fresh strawberries from Virginia. But you can see it's quite an effort to keep them in good shape. And with the cost of fuel right now, with everything, running those diesel engines is really costly.
Yeah, that is something we've talked about quite a bit, is farmers are under sort of a fragile time period right now from tariffs straight into fuel issues. So we cannot deal with Mother Nature giving even more trouble to the farming industry. So we're hoping that this gets fixed soon. Olivia, could you replay that video? And I do just want to point out that I love the system of spreading the water around here. Right. Just that little kick that they've got going.
Yeah, they've got like essentially what's like a fire hose just gunning water out, and then they've got that that little arm that comes up and disrupts it to throw some scattered water out there.
Now I want to ask Craig a question real quick. Olivia, if you're able to pull up the Dairy Queen cam while I ask Craig a question, I'd love to also show what's going on out at the oceanfront right now. Craig, we're talking about these tsunamis.
Right.
I'm wondering, is there a natural disaster, a type of intense weather that the meteorology community finds most difficult to predict and pinpoint?
Well, I mean, something like a tsunami that would be triggered by a landslide or an earthquake or something, that would be, tremendous because we don't have systems in place to really forecast that. Now, there are seismologists that are watching activity, and if they started to see a pattern of activity suggesting there could be more of that, that would be something that would, obviously trigger a lot more of attention. But one of the things I wanted to show you here is we take a look. Let's come back to our Weather One, our Max, if we can.
That works. We'll get back to the ocean
in terms of producers here. Talk about Max One, our weather system. You take a look down here to the south, and we have this system. Let me pull up our pointer so I can give you a feel. Right down here, north of the Greater Antilles. When you talk about the Greater Antilles, talking Puerto Rico, Hispaniola here, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, back over to Cuba. This area right in here is an area that, in theory, there could be some seismic activity that could trigger a tsunami that could propagate towards the southeast U.S. and the mid-Atlantic. So when we talk about the threat, I mean, generally we're in pretty good shape here in Hampton Roads. We don't have any historic, modern history suggesting that there's anything too troubling. But that is one area that we would watch. There is also concern that off, the coast of Portugal or somewhere here around the North African coast, if there was some kind of a, large landslide or an earthquake, that could send waves across the Atlantic eventually over to us, and that would be problematic. But
wow,
as far
that's
as
impossible. That's incredible to imagine
Yeah.
it could generate that much force.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you get these large waves, they spread out, and really, it's all about how much wave energy there is, and then the kind of the structure of the sea floor and the layer beneath. As it thins out, those waves can grow. What might be just a little tiny wave moving across the ocean, once it gets closer to the shore, can gain size and magnitude. So. There's some things I can tell you as a resident here in Norfolk and somebody that lives at an elevation of 11.5 to 12 feet above the average of the lower sea level, what we call mean lower low water. My property, I have flood insurance because it's a big enough threat being
Right.
that close to the water. I don't lose a minute of sleep on this. Okay.
Right.
I mean, I don't. That being said, I also understand that there's a possibility we could see something. So I don't disregard it or play it off. But at the same time, this is not something that we actively worry about here in Hampton Roads.
Okay.
But if there were tsunami warnings, we'd have to be prepared to act. Get
Okay.
higher ground.
So not something to actively worry about. Nice to be aware of it. And
Something
in the
to be
meantime,
mindful of, but not worry about.
And in the meantime, we do keep an eye on Japan as they prepare for the possibility. But
Yeah,
looks
and I
like
think
they'll
at
be
this
okay.
point, if it was going to be bad, we would know.
We would know.
So
Okay.
even at that point, the fact that they had warnings out, they were watching, and there were some little aftershocks. Right now, I think Japan's in better shape. The fact that we haven't had any reports of anything out, I think we're doing better there too.
And we will say goodbye to Craig with that look at the ocean front that I wanted to pull up. I just wanted to point out how windy it is. The flags give such an accurate representation
I
of just
love
how
that
much
they have
wind there
Old
is.
Glory flying there too. A lot of times
Times 4.
they have different. What's that?
Times 4.
Yeah, well, a lot of times down there by the DQ at that park, they have some different festive flags. But man, we are celebrating 250 years as a country, and I love to see the American flag flying.
As we move towards the summer, too, those celebrations are really going to ramp up. And it is flying because it is windy, but that
So
has...
what would you say about those flags right now as you're mentioning that? And they're small flags. I mean, honestly, we're not looking at like destructive winds or anything, but it's
Right.
breezy. But what would you tell me about those flags?
I would just tell you to wear a sweatshirt if you're going for a walk on the boardwalk.
Well, that's true,
It's
but I
chilly
was
out there.
thinking wind direction. What do you think you're looking at?
Okay, what are we looking at? Well, they're
Winds are. I'm going to help you out. Winds are blowing out from the west southwest.
from the west.
right now.
I was gonna go west
There will
because
be.
they're pointing at the water there.
They're
right?
pointing out to the water, so that would help indicate that yes, the winds are blowing from the west to the east. Later today, we're going to see those winds coming around to the northwest, and then those flags are going to be pointing down south along the boardwalk. And when you see that, you'll know that next cold front is through our area, and that cooler air is settling in
Okay.
later this afternoon.
Good to know. I got a little distracted by the tractors rolling across the sand there, getting things ready on the beach for hopefully later in the week some more beach action. Okay, that is Craig Moeller. This has been your 13 News Now forecast. We are going to take a brief commercial break. When we get back, we have an interview all set up where we're going to talk about gas prices as that continues to be one of the main headlines to come out of this war in Iran in terms of what we're feeling here domestically. So stay with us for that. Okay, welcome back here to Live Impact News, 10:32 a.m. here. We're about a quarter of the way through our show. Everything good? Okay, we are working our way towards our next segment here, which is going to be an interview with Patrick DeHaan of Gas Buddy. While we get that set up, I want to give an update on the Iran war and how that directly relates to some of what we'll be talking about in terms of those fuel prices. Now, we do know that oil prices did climb more than 5%. Now, if you remember back to Friday, if you were with us on Friday, things seemed remarkably optimistic, right? We had a ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel. We had a ceasefire, however fragile, between the United States and Iran, and the Strait of Hormuz was purported to be open. Now, all of that on Friday sent us into the weekend with as optimistic of a view as I think we've maybe had on this war since it begun in terms of finding a peaceful resolution. Well, all it takes is one weekend for things to sort of descend back into really question marks, I guess would be one way to say it. The Strait of Hormuz reportedly closed once again. This comes on the heels of the United States essentially boarding and taking command of an Iranian ship that was looking to pass through the blockade that the U.S. Navy has enacted on Iranian ports. So all of a sudden, we are back to sort of that tentative place that we were before. That ceasefire is set to expire, the one between the U.S. and Iran, at 8 p.m. on Wednesday. However, anonymous sources tell the Associated Press that Iran is willing to send a delegation for a second round of negotiations this week in Islamabad in Pakistan. Now, President Trump has said that J.D. Vance, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and Jared Kushner will be going to negotiate this week in Islamabad. So it looks like both sides are willing. We'll see what sort of progress we can get out of that. In the meantime, the Strait of Hormuz closed once again. Chinese President Xi Jinping called for the Strait of Hormuz to stay open, which may give you an indication as to how this critical passageway for fuel is not just impacting the participants in this war, but is also impacting countries all around the globe. So that is where we stand with the war in Iran and, of course, its impact on sort of the energy industry globally. Now we're going to bring on Patrick DeHaan from Gas Buddy. He'll join us pretty frequently on this show. I think our audience is starting to get to know you a little bit here. Patrick, how's everything going on this Monday?
Well, a little bit less optimistic than we left last week. I mean, as you described, talk about a major 180, but highlights, how fragile these situations can be. Had a lot of, very similar things being said between the U.S. and Iran. Things were looking good. Gas prices were declining. We're starting the new week. Gas prices did drop over the weekend, but now may be the time to fill up. As you mentioned, oil prices up about 5%. That could lead to a round of gas price increases here this week. So hard to know exactly where, we're going to end up, how many twists and turns are going to be in this road, but certainly feeling like a roller coaster ride that just continues to go on here as we now enter the 8th week of the U.S. and Iran situation.
And as you said, we left Friday in such a relatively secure and optimistic place, and then chaos over the weekend once again. I wonder, obviously, the tangible sort of decisions that we see in the war, whether it be the seizing of a ship or the closing of the strait, those things are obviously going to impact prices. To what degree does the chaos in and of itself affect the industry and sort of consumer enthusiasm, I guess?
Well, I mean, it has an impact in where oil markets go, and that's the impact that consumers have, right? It just makes it very difficult to keep doing this up and down. And so it doesn't really impact the industry. They're going to produce oil. Oil's moving behind the scenes, but it's really interesting from the standpoint of watching markets try to absorb all the information. Because last week there was a rare moment, right, where the U.S. and Iran were both saying the same thing, and oil prices plummeted. Oil prices now, after the weekend and things fell apart, it seems like there's more distance between the sides. But even amongst a situation that is unreliable, there is some measure of reliability. That is, the president has made these escalations. He's had the same tone on major attacks, but we haven't seen that pan out. So I think the market is starting to gather more information on exactly what is possible and what is not. Oil prices jumped 7% last night. They've pared that back down to about a plus 4% increase. So the markets are starting to feel like I feel like a bit nauseous on everything that's happening. And even now with the escalations that have happened over the weekend, even with it looking like the sides are pretty far apart, oil is only up 4%. So just a lot of probably saber rattling here between the US and Iran. And the market is probably now settling into a phase where it may be skeptical of either party saying something, but we're going to continue to watch what happens in the Strait. Meanwhile, I think the cascading impacts are starting to become more visible. Challenges are going to become more acute, especially with jet fuel in areas of Asia and Europe. We saw a major earthquake in Japan, and from that perspective, really highlighting every refinery globally now is being relied on in a way that we've never seen before. And with refineries in the Middle East blocked by the Strait of Hormuz, keep in mind, even something like an earthquake in Japan that could knock refineries offline is now something we're watching. This is going to make hurricane season all the more critical. If we see major hurricanes blocking or shutting down refineries, and the situation with the U.S. and Iran ongoing, it could be very problematic.
I had never thought about that aspect of it, in that not only is it a problem itself, but the margin for error is now completely shrunk. And so if there is some sort of natural disaster or unforeseen event, then we kind of don't have any safeguards, it sounds like. Maybe. Is that a reasonable way to frame that?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, there is no breathing room. There is no margin for error this summer. I mean, with as long as the situation's ongoing, keep in mind that there's millions of barrels of oil refining capacity in the Middle East that are blocked. Not just the flow of oil. The flow of oil is what we're hearing about. It's what is impacting prices, but it's really also refineries. Some of the largest refineries in the Middle East are being blocked. Those refineries supply gasoline, diesel, and most importantly, jet fuel to the global market. So, I mean, really, with the loss of that 5 million barrels a day of capacity, it puts a lot of pressure on other global refineries. And as I mentioned, that earthquake in Japan was not on, a list of my bingo card for what to watch or what could make or break global refining capacity. But it's going to really highlight how sensitive anything is to, major hurricane this year. If we see the Gulf impacted by a Category 3 or stronger hurricane that takes aim for some of these very sensitive refining hubs, it still could be a very challenging summer. And keep in mind, there's a huge range of potential this summer. Gas prices could fall close to $3 if everything goes swimmingly from this moment on. We could also see 5 or even beyond that for gasoline prices. I mean, it's not impossible that under a worst case scenario, you still could see gas prices getting closer to $6. So just a huge amount of uncertainty with what we're going to see this summer.
I think a chill for most people's wallets there, as you said, even beyond that, towards the end of that sentiment. Now, this is very anecdotal, but I was listening to NPR on my way in this morning, and they told a story about an individual truck driver that they spoke to. He said he has completely stopped driving his truck, and he's just driving his spouse's car or whatever smaller sort of vehicle he can get his hands on because diesel fuel is just too expensive. Is that something you anticipate? Is maybe we see less trucks on the road as people try to manage this situation?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, that's the easiest case to say, I'm going to take my spouse's car because mine's diesel and this one's gasoline, and gasoline's a heck of a lot cheaper right now. So, I mean, we're seeing that across the board, that families that have larger, pickup trucks, unless you actually need the towing capacity, just jump in the gasoline powered vehicle, because right now gasoline is seeing the least impact compared to diesel and compared to jet fuel. So absolutely. I mean, you're going to see more of that here if diesel prices remain elevated. By the way, diesel prices this morning nationally still only 25 cents a gallon away from a new all-time record high. Diesel at $5.50 a gallon, a lot cheaper to fill that gasoline car up right now, with the national average back below the $4 mark. So yeah, I'd expect to see a lot more of that for those families that have that flexibility.
And then in terms of expectations, and again, I'm asking you to sort of project the future in industries that are even maybe outside of what we're directly talking about. But is this something where the EV industry could potentially see some bumps from this? If this is an extended situation through the summer, will more people say, look, I want to avoid this in the future, I'm just going to go towards an electric vehicle now?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That is something that a lot of households probably would think about. I don't know if it's feasible. I mean, not everyone can go out, especially with interest rates as elevated as they are. But absolutely, fuel economy is quickly starting to become more of a priority. How people drive and how they look at their next car purchase is going to be influenced based on what happens. Now, a lot of Americans aren't going to pull the trigger on a EV being tens of thousands of dollars unless this really starts to stick around for longer periods of time. I'm sure there's people out there that have said, hey, this is the straw that broke the camel's back. We're going to get an EV, and they were already looking at vehicles. But there's a lot of subset of Americans that can't afford a multiple, $10,000 vehicle right now. So the longer this continues, the more Americans will probably think about that. There are probably a few Americans that have already made the jump, but a lot of Americans just kind of holding their breath to see what's going to be next.
And this the sort of the path of our conversation has me thinking of all these unintended consequences in different areas. So again, I'll sort of ask, this is way out there, but if we were to get to August, September, October, let's hope not, but and we were seeing elevated prices and even sort of $5 and $6 prices all over the place, do you think that we could potentially see companies who start saying, hey, we're going to go back to working from home for a little bit because we know how hard this is? We spent the whole pandemic working from home. As we worked our way back from that, a lot of companies said, look, we know you can work from home, but we want you here. Could we see a reversion to saying, we're going to try to save you a little bit here, Monday through Wednesday, work from home, that type of thing?
I'm sure that's already happening, maybe on an individual basis, but look overseas. I mean, places, Africa, Europe, Asia are already doing that. In fact, some areas of Europe, they're mandating people start working from home to try and reduce consumption. I mean, I'm sure that's going to start here in the US. Just as more offices are having more days in office, you could very easily see that, yes, people are going to maybe start where available working from home, especially, on a case-by-case basis. If somebody's driving an hour to and from work every day, I would look for flexibility from employers in this type of situation on a temporary basis. I don't know how permanent. It might be hard for companies to want to, allow too much right now, given the dynamic may be temporary. But I think there's some places that you could see where that may be feasible or start to happen. Primarily not the U.S. so much, as we will likely see that more overseas.
Okay, keeping our eyes peeled for that. And my last question for you, we've talked about how maybe go and fill up that tank today based on what we're seeing. We talked about last time you were here about how people can drive in a way that maybe saves them just a little bit of gas when it comes to maybe the speed you're driving, how quickly you get up to top speed, putting it into neutral as you come to a stop, that sort of thing. I'm wondering, outside of those two realms, anything else you can pinpoint that people can be doing right now to try and protect the wallet during these price hikes?
Well, when there's a moment of buying opportunity like there is right now, oil prices are going up. It may be a good idea to top off today. But as you mentioned, driving habits are huge. I can't underestimate that. If you're not a member of a loyalty program at a gas station, there's plenty of them that will roll your prices back. Even payments, whether it's a credit card or cash discount or even pay with Gas Buddy card might be something that people can check out to help them save at the pump. But, there's really no magic wand to make the pain go away, but you can drive smarter, shop smarter, and pay smarter. All of those can offer you savings.
Okay, very good. Patrick De Haan, we appreciate you as always. I'm sure we'll see you again before long. Hopefully we get one of these interviews in the near future where there's more good news to talk about than bad news. But for the time being, have a great week. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, Patrick De Haan from Gas Buddy. He's become a regular guest on this show, always has great insight and great answers for us as we continue to observe this market that is in crisis. Now, Olivia, you had something that you wanted to add here.
Yeah. So my dad texted me last week. I'm originally from the Philly area, and my dad texted me the other day telling me about how much it took for him to fill up his truck. So my dad, he filled up just about 28 gallons. Take a guess on how much you think it cost.
Oh gosh.
Just take a wild guess.
28 gallons. What are we? Maybe $100, 110, higher.
A little bit higher.
115, 120.
All right. I'm gonna see. Can I take my camera? You can see that.
Is that 129?
That's 113.
112. 113. Okay. Woof. 113 to fill up the tank. And what's he driving?
It's GMC Sierra.
Okay, bigger vehicle.
But it's a big. My dad works construction, so
yeah.
It cost me about $70 to fill my little Honda Accord.
And
it makes me cry.
Right. And now he sends you the text with that picture. Give us a sense of his emotional state.
He said it was rude.
Yeah. We might have to get him as a guest here on Live Impact News if this keeps going. He sounds like a character. Okay, so we've got sort of our broad global statistics that we brought you before the interview. We have Patrick DeHaan giving us more insight, and then an actual sort of personal anecdote here of how this is really affecting everyday Americans. So this continues to be a massive crisis that we are going to keep an eye on, and that, again, as Patrick stated, has been so up and down. Right? We've had this situation where as the Strait of Hormuz is rumored to be opening on Friday, gas prices drop, or oil prices drop. It takes a while to actually see the impact at the pump, but oil prices drop. 2 days later, there's an incident and they go back up. It's just up and down based on how it looks that day in terms of finding peace in the war in Iran. Okay, we're going to take a brief commercial break here. When we get back, we actually have one live event that we want to check in on that we're observing right now, and we have a couple things from the weekend we still need to go over. That's coming up next. All right, we're back here on Live Impact News, where we're actually going to go live out to Chicago right now, as we have ABC cameras have captured a fire that has spread to multiple homes in Chicago, Illinois. So Olivia's pulling that up for us right now. I'll start to give some details while we get that pulled up. Now, we don't have a ton of details right now. At least 3 houses and garages were seen on fire. One of the houses appeared to collapse, at least in part, around 9:30 a.m. This is Fulton Avenue and Cicero Avenue in Chicago, if you have any familiarity with the area. And there it is right there. Shocking to look at here, as you can see, and a massive plume of smoke coming from that home on the right. But if you look to the left of where the smoke is physically coming out of, you'll see a home that is completely and totally decimated. Only the sort of bare bones structure of that home remains. And we do not have word. Let's see. It's not immediately clear if any injuries were reported, according to ABC7. That is all the update we have in terms of anyone who may have been hurt or worse in this fire. So hoping for the best in that regard. Very fascinating watching the firefighter work here at the top of those red stairs. Very close to the actual burning building there is a firefighter up in the area, and it looks like another firefighter's in that doorway there now, coming down those red steps. So watching them work here, you can see the hoses spraying, but this looks incredibly difficult to contain. It looks like the smoke even has maybe picked up here in the last 20 seconds or so. and you can actually see the siding of that house has just fallen off completely. So devastating for this neighborhood. And again, no updates on injuries of any kind. So we're continuing to be hopeful that no one was hurt in this situation, but you see firefighters working as hard as they can. And if you look up to the top of your screen now, you'll see a crowd of community members gathered there watching this take place on a Monday morning here. Being that it was a Monday morning, hopefully any kids are at school, any people are at work, and that these houses were either unoccupied or easily sort of evacuated. But you can see plenty of people outside watching this take place. And again, right on the sort of bottom right corner, you see a firefighter on those steps right in there trying to quell those flames a little bit. And that is, how do I describe this? I mean, courageous, right? Just the bravery to even be up on that elevated surface that close to a house whose structural integrity is obviously sort of flailing as we speak. So this gives you, we know this inherently, but a reminder of just how brave it is to go and do this job up on those steps as the house that those steps are attached to is slowly burning to the ground, frankly. And even sort of in front here, you can see a smaller home that's being worked on by firefighters, and we'll see if we're going to get a zoom out here to see just how expansive that plume of smoke is as that moves throughout the community. And look at this. Look at the side street on the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fire trucks, an ambulance, maybe even a 6th and 7th fire truck, and another 2 ambulances just over on that side. Much less the fire truck that we see there on the neighborhood street. As many crews as possible try to work on this fire and maybe get it put out. And again, just shocking to see that middle home there, sort of on the left side of your screen, that just does not appear to have any walls left at all. And there are going to be, we don't know what it certainly looks very residential here. And so you can imagine, hopefully no injuries above everything else, but families who may have lost an immense amount of belongings that are important to them, heirlooms that matter, who knows how long they've been living in those homes, the memories, but hopefully all people and pets are safe in this situation as firefighters continue to work. Again, this is Fulton Avenue and Cicero Avenue. At least 3 houses and garages were seen on fire. We're going to go to the map now so we can give a sense of where exactly this is, and it certainly looks extremely residential to me. I'm not familiar with the Chicago area, but it appears to be as though this is sort of right in a neighborhood. If you see our cursor there, you can see kind of where this took us. That's Fulton, and that's Cicero that runs up and down there. And it looks like maybe at the top of the screen is some public transportation. There's a fish and chicken spot right there. So can we zoom out and maybe get a sense, Olivia, of where in the city we are? I know it's going to be tough to tell. Okay, so this gives us a little bit of an idea. Yeah, more on the west side there, not particularly close to the coast. A little ways out of maybe what would be considered sort of the downtown area, if you will, but certainly right there in Chicago, a number of people's days and lives have been radically changed here in one morning as you see those fires. But we are going to continue to think and hope of all the potential that is there for a safe group of people to make it out of those homes, because we have not yet been told of any injuries. And we see mostly firefighters there. We did see ambulances on the side road, but I don't see any ambulances in our picture here, though it is really just focused on the homes that have burnt here. What's up, Olivia?
So you see the one house that still has like the siding to it.
Mm-hmm.
You see the one
with the red stairs there?
Yeah. So then to the left of it, there's the one that they're zooming in now, but it looks like there's a house in between the two of them.
That's just collapsed.
That's just completely
That's
collapsed.
just gone. So you've got that house there that is just foundation. And then you're absolutely right, Olivia. There's a house right there that is just completely collapsed, which is in line with reporting from ABC7 in Chicago, our sister station out there. Great call. Yeah, that's 3 homes right there, or was 3 homes. That's 3 homes there on the left, completely gone, other than the foundational structure. In the middle, a pile of rubble. And then on the right, firefighters are working desperately to save what they can of that home as fire continues to spray at that area. And certainly you would hope that none of the other, it looks like there's the house to the right is certainly receiving a lot of smoke, but it doesn't look like there's any actual fire damage. And I certainly can't imagine what it's like to sit there as a member of this neighborhood and watch this happen. There you see some more people at the bottom of your screen just sort of observing what's going on. But for now, that is all the detail we have. We'll continue to check in on this. Fascinating. Look at the water pouring out from where they're spraying inside. That's just kind of pouring out a mixture of water and smoke there. And they are really working to try to get this thing contained. And it does look like for the time being like it's staying just amongst those 3 homes and maybe the garage right in front there. But the city of Chicago here overtaken by a residential fire this morning. And we'll check back in with this, and we hope we check back in with something positive, because that is a devastating loss of property at the very least there. That middle home just gone. I mean, hours ago there was a fully formed house standing there, and now it is just totally and completely gone. Okay. We will revisit that. We'll continue to keep an eye on that live screen, and we'll come back to this throughout the show in hopes that the firefighters' hard work leads to some encouraging results. For now, we're going to go and take one more commercial break here before we get back and we do an update on a devastating situation in Louisiana over the weekend, a shooting that killed 8 children in Shreveport, Louisiana. That's where we're headed coming up after the break. Stay with us. Okay, back here on Live Impact News. Thanks, everybody, for hanging with us this morning as we start yet another week of news. And we start this next segment with just impossibly heartbreaking news. There's no words to describe how shocking and difficult this headline is to read. We're going to go off some Associated Press reporting here. Man kills 8 children and shoots his wife and another woman in Shreveport, Louisiana. I mean, that headline alone is devastating. And this is even more unique in that this was a Louisiana man who fatally shot 7 of his own children and another child in an attack clearly against his family. Now, the reporting is that this gentleman was in the middle of separating from his wife. As we said, he also shot and wounded his wife. This is early Sunday across 2 homes in Shreveport, Louisiana. Now, the gunman's wife, the mother of their children, and another woman were critically wounded, according to the Shreveport Police Department. Shamar Elkins is the name of the shooter, and he reportedly died after fleeing in a police pursuit that ended with officers firing on him. As for the children, it was 3 boys and 5 girls, ranging in age from 3 to 11 years old. Another child jumped off the roof of the house and is expected to survive. Elkins and his wife were separating. They were due in court on Monday, according to a cousin of the woman shot in the attack. She said the couple had been arguing about the separation before the shooting. And again, this is before sunrise on Sunday. This is overnight, Saturday into Sunday. And 8 children dead, 7 of whom were the children of the man who committed the shooting. And the man who committed the shooting also dead after a police pursuit ended with officers firing on him. Now, we have a press conference from Shreveport that was recorded. Olivia, was this recorded yesterday or earlier today?
This was a presser from yesterday.
This is yesterday. Okay, this is Shreveport Police yesterday speaking about this incident. Let's listen in.
We're going to give some initial information what we have, and I want to start with, this is all preliminary information. This is a very large scene with 4 specific locations that we are currently addressing events from early this morning. This morning, officers responded to a shooting that occurred just after 6 a.m. In doing so, we've determined that this was a domestic call in nature. The responding officers located a crime scene here in the 300 block of West 79th Street, and this is a rather extensive crime scene spanning between 2 residences here. There is also another residence on Harrison Street that is part of this crime scene as well. Right now, we have at least 10 individuals that were struck by gunfire last night in a domestic disturbance. 8 of these individuals are deceased. The ranges of the decedents are from 1 year of age to approximately 14 years of age. All of the deceased in this case are juveniles. The individual responsible, once leaving this scene, performed a carjacking right here in close proximity to the corner of West 79th and Linwood, at which point in time, Shreveport Police patrol officers got behind that vehicle and a chase ensued. The vehicle was chased into Bossier Parish, and at which point in time, Shreveport police officers did discharge their firearm, and that individual is deceased. We do believe him to be the only individual that fired gunshots at these locations here. He is deceased, and Louisiana State Police will be taking over that portion in which the Shreveport police officers discharged their firearms. So we don't have any more information on the shooting that occurred in Bossier. What we can tell you is this is a domestic disturbance here in the 300 block of West 79th Street. This is a very large scene with multiple deceased children present, and so we're going to ask for your patience in us getting information out. We will release the name of the suspect that is deceased when we have made the proper notifications. We do know that some of the children inside were his descendants, and so once we are ensured of everyone's names and ages and the proper channels have been notified, we'll be releasing all of that information. But we did want to come on and give what information we have available. So at this point in time, I'd like to bring the mayor, because I know he has some words and he's been here since the early part of this investigation.
Thank you, Chris. Whenever we have a situation like this, the words of the poet John Donne always come to mind. No man is an island unto himself. So therefore, never ask for well told as he told for thee. We have a hurting community. We have hurting families. We have hurting police officers. coroner's personnel, fire department, sheriff people, and this affects the entire community. So we all mourn with these families. I ask, it's a Sunday morning, I ask all of you who are listening, who might be able to pray at your services this morning for not just this family, for all the victims, for the victims who are at the hospital, and for the Cedar Grove community, and for the community at large, as well as police officers, coroners, fire department, Caddo Parish Sheriff's Office. This is a tragic situation, maybe the worst tragic situation we've ever had in Shreveport. And so right now, we're going to process the information. It is in very good hands, but it's a terrible morning in Shreveport, and we all mourn with the victims.
My heart goes out to this entire community for the tragic event that has taken place this morning. I just don't know what to say. My heart is just taken back. I just cannot begin to imagine how such an event can occur. I want to let the community know that all of my resources are out here processing every piece of evidence in every scene, and at some time in the near future we'll be able to give some more conclusive information about exactly what took place. I want to thank the agencies that have reached out to me this morning and offered their assistance. Thank you so much to the Caddo Parish Sheriff Department, the Louisiana State Police, the Shreveport Fire Department, and all that have either come out to help or called and offered their assistance. But we're going to be working diligently, however long it takes, to get some answers to what is taking place.
As Chief Smith indicated, we will release more information when it's available. We will be working closely with the coroner's office, so look for some information hopefully by tomorrow on the information in regards to the 8 children. And just please keep this community and these officers in your thoughts and prayers, because as the mayor indicated, this is an extensive scene, unlike anything I know most of us have ever seen. So as soon as we have more information, we have any questions, I'll do the best to answer them.
Chris, can you give the exact address of where this occurred, the shooting occurred?
Well, so you have 3 different scenes. The shooting itself occurred just down the road over here in the 300 block of West 79th. There's also another shooting related to this on Harrison Street. And then there's an adjacent resident on West 79th where one of the victims ran to after the shooting. So it is an extensive scene. And once we have all of the information, we'll do the best we can to piece it together.
Chris, what time did all of this just start?
Early morning hours. The initial domestic dispute is somewhere in the 5 o'clock hour, I believe. But once I have a timeline, we'll detail that in the press release.
Have you ever seen anything like this in your years of working, Chris?
This is unlike anything I've ever seen. Unlike anything this community's ever seen.
I know you said you can't release the name of the suspect yet, but can you give an age? Was he a juvenile? Was he an adult?
No, the suspect is an adult. We'll get that information out, hopefully, by tomorrow.
And you said it happened at multiple locations? Gunfire happened at multiple locations?
Yes, that is the information.
How many locations exactly?
So, Harrison Street address, we know there's a shooting there. There's multiple deceased persons here in the 300 block of West 79th, and then the shooting that occurred in Bossier Parish. So we have several crime scenes, and we really want to thank Louisiana State Police and Bossier and our friends with the Caddo Sheriff's Office. This type of a scene requires a lot of resources, requires a lot of officers. We want to make sure that this is thoroughly investigated, and we can do the best we can to try to understand it. That's the way up to this. I don't know if we'll ever really understand it, but we'll do the best we can to explain it and get whatever closure we can get to the families involved in this case.
And you sure they're all connected, all the scenes?
Yes, absolutely. These scenes are undoubtedly connected. Right now, there is no public safety.
Okay, we came out of that press conference a little bit early. We know that the audio was not great. The audio a little mismatched with the speaker, and just difficult to hear. That was the best we could do. It's such a massive sort of important story that we wanted to cover it any way we could, but we know the audio wasn't great in there. We apologize if that was just sort of not digestible for anyone in terms of being able to actually hear what was going on. But we wanted to try our best to get anything we could in terms of information, updates, and a sense of the actual city itself and the scene in that city today. So we went ahead with that anyway. We will do a couple more updates here. Shreveport, Louisiana, kind of right up at the sort of northwestern tip of Louisiana. It's actually right on the border of Louisiana and Texas. It's the opposite end of the state, as Olivia actually pointed out. It's the opposite end of the state of New Orleans. It's looks like as far as you can get from New Orleans in the state of Louisiana. About 180,000 residents in Shreveport. Their mayor called it maybe the worst tragic situation we've ever had. It's the deadliest in the United States since January of 2024, when 8 people were killed in a Chicago suburb, according to a database that the Associated Press, USA Today, and Northeastern University conduct and maintain. So a tragic day in Shreveport, and Olivia has pulled it up on the map here. We can give everyone an idea of where exactly Shreveport is. While we pull that up, I'll let you know that Elkins, the individual who committed the shooting, does not appear to have a major criminal history, but he was placed on probation in 2019 after pleading guilty to the illegal use of weapons. In that case, Elkins fired 5 rounds at a vehicle. He told police that someone inside had pulled a gun on him, according to a police report, someone inside that vehicle. So a slight history there of gun use for Elkins, the alleged shooter in the situation, who died after a police pursuit. Now you can sort of see the outline of Louisiana. It's kind of that boot shape there. You see New Orleans up to Baton Rouge, where LSU is, over to Lafayette, all down in the southern area. Shreveport all the way up in that northwest corner. Actually, it looks like it's probably closer to Tyler, Texas, than it is to New Orleans. Could you, Olivia, if we can go over left a little bit, what is that, Dallas right there? Yeah, so Dallas right there. So Shreveport, frankly, not maybe even as close to Dallas as it is to New Orleans. Right up there, so close to Texas, right on the border of Arkansas even. Again, a town of 180,000 has been rocked by what is a major shooting of an individual taking the lives of 8 children, including 7 of whom were his own kids. He also shot his partner and another woman, who are both in critical condition. Let me make sure I had that right. I believe it was critical condition, at least at the time of our reporting. And he and his wife were separating. They were going through a separation. Reports are they'd been arguing about the separation, due in court on Monday, due in court today. And now we get news of this horrible incident where 8 children are dead. And I'm trying to make sure there were no, according to investigators, they were not aware of any other domestic violence issues involving Elkins. But that is what we're getting in terms of reporting here about his past. So the 1 weapons charge, no other reports of domestic violence. In terms of his wife, shot and wounded, I don't see a specific update about the condition. Critically wounded, rather than critical condition, critically wounded is the exact language used here in terms of the gunman's wife and the other woman who were shot. So that is where that stands. We'll if we get updates on this, but for now, thoughts are with that community, all surviving family members, as this is nothing short of a tragedy in Shreveport, Louisiana over the weekend. Okay, we're going to go to a commercial break here. When we get back, there's multiple things that we're keeping an eye on here. One of those in particular is the British Prime Minister is currently speaking about what would have been the appointment of Peter Mandelson as UK ambassador to Washington. Mandelson has come under fire due to both some security checks and a friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, or a purported friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. So we're going to dig into that when we return. That's happening live right now. First, We're going to run some ads here. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back to Live Impact News, where we are going to go actually across the Atlantic for a scandal and live event that's happening in the United Kingdom right now. This is questions from Parliament towards Prime Minister Keir Starmer as he attempts to answer for Peter Mandelson, a, quote, scandal-tarnished politician and friend of Jeffrey Epstein, who became Britain's ambassador to Washington despite failing security checks. And this is a situation where Keir Starmer is now trying to answer for how something like that could happen. Again, Peter Mandelson was appointed Britain's ambassador to Washington. He has a reported friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, or had a reported friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, and failed security checks. And so now Keir Starmer is attempting to explain that situation to the Parliament in the United Kingdom. So we are going to go live and take a listen in on that right now as we get a sense of what's happening in the UK's politics for the time being. We'll be back here in the studio to go over some more headlines, but let's take a listen in to this event.
Mr. Speaker, the House and the public understand the importance of independent security vetting and why sensitive personal information must be protected. But they are also shocked that decisions of such significance could be taken without the knowledge of the Prime Minister. I have worked closely with the Prime Minister and know how seriously he takes national security and accountability to this House. So can the Prime Minister set out what steps he will take to remove any ambiguity, so where there are serious concerns, those risks are flagged to ministers, ensuring that accountability to this House and to the country is always upheld?
Prime Minister. I thank her for her question, Mr. Speaker. That is why last week the Chief Secretary suspended the power of the FCDO to make a recommendation or to take a decision contrary to the recommendation of UK SV.
Sir David Davis.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has twice rebuffed first the Leader of the Opposition, then the Leader of the Liberal Democrats, when they said that the then Cabinet Secretary's advice to the Prime Minister was to get the clearance before the announcement. So I'm going to read in one sentence from a document entitled Options for HMA Washington from the Cabinet Secretary of the day to him personally. It says, if this is the route you wish to take, you should give us the name of the person you would like to appoint, and we will develop a plan for them to acquire the necessary security clearances and do due diligence on any potential conflicts of interest or other issues of which you should be aware before confirming your choice. The House doesn't want to hear about what Mr. Wormald said a year later. That was the advice then. Why didn't he follow it?
Mr. Speaker, he reads out the passage from Mr. Case's advice. The process that was followed was what I understood to be the usual process. In other words, the appointment was subject to the security vetting. It is why, when Sir Chris Wormald looked at it in September, he addressed the question by reference back to Simon Case's letter, because I wanted to know the process that had been followed was the right process, and that is what Sir Chris Wormald looked at. He looked at it expressly by reference to the Simon Case letter that has just been read out, and assured me that the right process was followed when he reviewed it.
Belter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Anybody who knows the Prime Minister will know full well that he would never, ever deliberately mislead this House. But the reality is this, Mr. Speaker, ex post facto vetting is utterly pointless when the appointment is political. And the trouble, Mr. Speaker, that we all face is that trust in the Prime Minister and in politics is diminishing as this sorry saga continues. So in the 17 days we have leading to those very important elections, never mind question, those very important elections, what does the Prime Minister propose to do to win back the trust of the country?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, in relation to his point about vetting in relation to political appointments, I don't agree, but I do agree that the due diligence for direct ministerial appointments should be the same as for any other appointments. It clearly wasn't, and that's why in September I ordered that it be changed in order to make sure it is the same process, whether it's a direct ministerial appointment or any other appointment. In relation to the country, Mr. Speaker, it is important that we remain focused on the cost of living and on dealing with the war on two fronts that we face in this country, and I intend to do that.
Stephen Flynn.
Mr. Speaker, the harshest and most important truth in this entire process is that the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom chose to proactively ignore the victims of Jeffrey Epstein when he made the political choice to put Peter Mandelson in as the UK's most senior diplomat in the United States of America, despite knowing that he had maintained a friendship with Jeffrey Epstein himself. We have since seen Peter Mandelson be investigated for potential misconduct in public office, and we, of course, now learn through the media that Peter Mandelson had failed his security vetting. The Prime Minister blames all of this, all of it, on the judgment of others. But I'm interested in his judgment. Does he believe himself to be gullible, incompetent, or both?
Yeah. Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank him for his question. I've laid out the relevant facts. It is absolutely clear that nobody is suggesting that this information was made available to me. It clearly wasn't made available. It should have been made available, and I would not have made the appointment had it been made available. That is why I set out the facts in some considerable detail to the House, with relevant quotes from all the relevant players in this.
Stella Creasy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister is being candid about some of the challenges in this process. I'm sure he will share the frustration across this House that revelations keep coming and this matter keeps coming back to Parliament. Now, he says that he has acted to prevent any further challenges in the vetting system for the government for senior appointments. Can he therefore give all of our constituents and this House the reassurance that he has no further sense there will be any challenges to any other senior appointments through the vetting process that this government has made?
Well, Mr. Speaker, that is precisely why I've asked for a review to be carried out of the security vetting. I have no reason to believe that to be the case, but I want to be assured about the security vetting process, and that's why I've asked Sir Adrian Fulford to look at it so he can give me that further reassurance. I will then, of course, pass that on to the House.
Dame Karen Bradley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister has just told us that after he sacked Peter Mandelson, he changed the process so that now an appointment cannot be announced until after security vetting is passed. Why did he do that if he didn't think there was a problem with the security vetting?
Well, Mr. Speaker, in September, it became clear to me that in relation to the due diligence that had been carried out by the Cabinet Office, Peter Mandelson had been asked questions by my staff and given answers which were not truthful. That was exposed by the Bloomberg emails. At that point, I became concerned about the entire process. I asked for the review of the process by Sir Chris Wormold, which he carried out, but I also made it immediately clear that I would change the due process so that whether it's direct ministerial appointments or any other appointments, the same process was gone through. And I also wanted to make it clear that I didn't think that it was right that appointments should be announced before security vetting was gone through in any circumstances, and therefore I changed it straight away.
Rachel Blake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My constituents are deeply concerned about the appointment of Peter Mandelson, and they want to see complete transparency going forward. I'm really concerned to read that the civil servants in the Cabinet Office may have had this information about a month ago, and it has taken them this long to be able to be in a position where they can share the information with the democratically elected person making this appointment. What can the Prime Minister share with us today so that we don't have to face this type of issue going forward?
Prime Minister.
Can I address that head on? Because what happened was that the information came to the attention of senior civil servants who were in fact doing the compliance work on the humble address. When they saw the information about developed vetting, they took legal advice straight away to ask whether it was legal to disclose that to me. They got that advice, and as soon as the advice was given, they disclosed it to me straight away last Tuesday. That was the right and appropriate thing for them to do. There's no criticism of what they did.
Rachel Gilmore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We know that last September, MI6's finding that Mandelson's compromising business interests was accurate. I mentioned it myself on September the 15th in 2025. He failed his security vetting. We also know the former Cabinet Secretary advised the Prime Minister to carry out security clearance for Mandelson before his appointment. It was reported in the Times yesterday that Mandelson was given strap, very, very highest security vetting, well beyond DV, despite being failed for DV. It is likely that the Americans will have serious questions about what secrets of theirs a compromised British ambassador might have accessed. Despite all this, we also know that the PM and Number 10 were utterly determined to appoint Mandelson as ambassador to DC, come hell or high water. My question is why?
Prime Minister.
Can I assure her that I have ordered a review of any national security issues arising in relation to what I found out last Tuesday, and I'll obviously update the House when that review is complete.
Dr. Rupa Hutt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I also thank the Prime Minister for his heartfelt statement, and, if we're judging parties on actions, not words, for reviving the post of anti-corruption czar. It was vacant for 3 of his predecessors, years and years, starting with Boris Johnson's lockdown breaches. So can I ask the Prime Minister, now that we have the heavyweight Margaret Hodge in post, what plans does he have for this broader policy area?
Well, I'm sure that Margaret Hodge will do a very good job in that role, as she's done in so many other roles previously.
Sir Julian Lewis.
Who first suggested to the Prime Minister that Mandelson should be appointed as our ambassador to the United States, or was it just his own idea? Did it never cross his mind that Mandelson was at risk of failing the vetting process. And before sacking Oliver Robbins last week, did the Prime Minister ask him why he overruled the verdict of the security vetters? And if so, what was his explanation?
I did ask him, and I didn't accept his explanation. That's why I sacked him.
Rachel Musk.
Back here in live Impact News, and a couple things to notice there. Obviously, the specific debate going back and forth about Mandelson is one that has been contentious. And the other thing to notice is, just it's unique to be able to watch Parliament and how they conduct their sort of events, I guess, if you will, or their lawmaking and their governance, and the differences that you see as opposed to maybe when we'll listen in to the Senate floor. It's just different, different cultures, different places have different ways of conducting those things. And so that's fascinating to look at, but also this particular issue is one that stretches well beyond this room, because as we've seen, the Jeffrey Epstein story has had massive impacts here in the United States and continues to be a story that people are very, very interested in getting to the bottom of and figuring out right here in the U.S. So having the Jeffrey Epstein files be also connected to what they're going through in the U.K. in terms of their governance is something that we wanted to make sure we listen to and that we may go back to as it continues on. We'll say that an update is from before this meeting started is that Starmer repeatedly told lawmakers that due process was followed when Peter Mandelson was appointed ambassador to Washington. He now says he's furious that he wasn't informed that a vetting process had recommended Mandelson not be given security clearance. So despite the vetting process recommending that Mandelson not get security clearance, he was set up to get it anyway. The Foreign Office, which oversees diplomatic appointments, cleared him anyway. Keir Starmer saying he's furious that he wasn't informed of this beforehand. This whole entire situation has left opponents calling for Starmer to resign. But as you can see, back and forth they go in Parliament. Now, we are going to take a break here. When we get back, we may revisit this, but we do have some other things we want to get to, including some thoughts on renewable energy in North Carolina from the governor. So for now, a brief commercial break, a couple more stories to go through when we return. All right, welcome back. 11:36 a.m. here on April 20th, 2026. And what we are going to do as Olivia works through some technical issues that we're experiencing equipment-wise, I'm going to give two updates, one global, one right here local in Virginia. The first, we alluded to this earlier before our interview with Patrick DeHaan from Gas Buddy, and that is that the United States attacked and seized an Iranian-flagged cargo ship over the weekend. The U.S. said that that cargo ship had tried to evade its naval blockade near the Strait of Hormuz on Monday. It was the first interception since the United States blockade of Iranian ports began last week, and Iran's Joint Military Command vowed to respond. Now, this is all in the midst of that ceasefire that remains in place that expires on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Iran on Monday submitted a new death toll for the war, its forensic chief saying at least 3,375 people had been killed in the conflict. And then we have Israel saying it would join another round of talks with Lebanon in Washington, D.C. on Thursday. The ambassadors of the two countries met in Washington last week, of course. And again, we do want to once more note the seizing of that ship. Marines boarded the ship with the Iranian flag and were able to seize that ship as it attempted to pass through the United States blockade that on Friday Trump said would remain in place despite, at the time, the announcement that the Strait of Hormuz was opening. So the president still saying that the Strait of Hormuz will continue to be blockaded until the U.S. and Iran reach an agreement on the war. So we continue to monitor this as we have for the last 8 weeks. The United States military says it has directed 27 ships back to Iranian ports during the blockade. It looks like we do have a post from Donald Trump that Olivia has pulled up for us. This is from 3:00 p.m. yesterday, April 19th. Let's go through here. Today, an Iranian-flagged cargo ship named Tuska, nearly 900 feet long and weighing almost as much as an aircraft carrier, tried to get past our naval blockade, and it did not go well for them. The U.S. Navy-guided missile destroyer USS Spruance intercepted the Tuska in the Gulf of Oman and gave them fair warning to stop. The Iranian crew refused to listen, so our Navy ship stopped them right in their tracks by blowing a hole in the engine room. Right now, U.S. Marines have custody of the vessel. The Tuska is under U.S. Treasury sanctions because of their prior history of illegal activity. We have full custody of the ship and are seeing what's on board. President Donald J. Trump yesterday, 3:23 p.m. So him confirming everything that we're reporting today. That blockade has now resulted in the seizing of an Iranian ship that is in United States custody now. Okay, let's do a quick, before we go out to our next event, let's do a quick reminder. And I know that if you're a regular viewer of this program, you have had a lot of reminders already, but we want to remind you again. Tomorrow is that election day for the referendum here in Virginia on redistricting. Tomorrow is the election day. We've seen a very high degree of early voting in this election, the referendum on redistricting. But tomorrow is the actual day of the election. We'll have wall-to-wall coverage here on 13 News Now, and we want to make sure that we encourage everyone to vote in this election. This is the redrawing of the voting map here in Virginia. Vote yes to approve the newly drawn map, a map that will give Democrats a greater advantage in the U.S. House of Representatives, or to disapprove of the map, which would maintain the currently drawn voting districts. And this, of course, all started, as many of you know, last year when President Donald Trump requested that legislators in Texas go and get him 5 more Republican seats. California responded by looking to redraw their maps for more Democrat seats, and states have gone in a bit of a domino effect now, from Missouri to North Carolina. Other states have tried to counter as we go through. So as a Republican state looks to gain more seats, a democratically controlled state will look to balance that. A Republican state will then look to balance that, and so on and so forth, all the way here to Virginia, where we now have this referendum. Vote yes if you support the maps being redrawn. The redrawn maps will give more seats to the Democratic Party. And then a no if you do not support the maps being redrawn, which would keep the districts as they are now. That is the question that you will have to answer at the ballot box tomorrow. And it all comes down to the fact that right here in the Commonwealth, we have a vote that will have implications on national politics. If you're in a situation where you feel like sometimes these major nationwide elections come and maybe our voices are so small, there are so many people voting, there are so many machinations that go into politics and into governance that maybe you wish your vote had more influence. This is an opportunity for you to make sure that your vote does have some influence here, as what is decided in Virginia tomorrow will play a role in shaping the United States House of Representatives, as other states have attempted to play their role in shaping that House, and it's worked its way all the way to Virginia. So again, tomorrow, polling day. Okay, let's go out to a press conference that happened over the weekend in North Carolina. This is Governor Stein speaking about clean energy in North Carolina. Let's take a listen.
The recommendation of UKSV is what matters.
Gavin Robinson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister knows that he is the main character in an ongoing national scandal. And given all the blame...
Okay, we're back here on camera because, as you can see, we had multiple audios there. We are using the same platform that we were playing the British Parliament on to also play this press conference about clean energy with Governor Stein. We've got it all fixed up here. We're going to play it for you right now.
So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Governor Stein. Thanks again for your time today.
Dave, thank you. Dave and the team at Trane, I want to thank you for your hospitality in hosting us today. Demand for energy is fast rising, and we just came from a roundtable with about 15 or 20 national leading companies and companies from a whole variety of industries. Some of them were transportation, some of them were high tech, some of them were steel, and what all of them said was that they have important goals for themselves, for their companies, which is to be net zero by 2050. And what they also said was that there's not a tension between sustainability, between energy efficiency and cost. In fact, they are intertwined. That the more you can achieve efficiency in your production, the lower your costs are going to be, the cheaper your products you can deliver to market. I heard a great deal of request by the business community for certainty and stability in state policy. North Carolina is proud of our net zero 2050 goal that's in state law, and it's quite clear that these companies want us to continue to do that. It's part of what attracted them to North Carolina. We've got so many things that are going well for us in North Carolina. We had our best job announcement year in history last year. We want to keep building on that, and the way we do it is by helping companies achieve their goals, and so many of these companies have a goal of net zero by 2050. Happy to take any questions.
What are some of the ways that efficiency can help companies?
Yeah, that when you consume less energy at your manufacturing facility, then you can lower your costs in what you sell that product to your customer. When you produce what they do here at Trane, which is really exciting, is they cool the building by using ice that they manufacture the night before. The power is cheaper and it's less expensive to use ice to cool the building than it is typical refrigeration. So it's a double savings. They're putting less demand on the grid and they're powering their buildings more cheaply. That's great for Trane. It lowers their bottom line, meaning that they can deliver product to customers cheaper and help out the economy.
And that's great for these companies. What about all the other ratepayers in the state?
Yeah, there are real tensions on ratepayers right now because there's so much growth in North Carolina. We have this burgeoning explosion of data centers. We have more advanced manufacturing happening in North Carolina, and some of that's good. We need AI to help us become more efficient as an economy, but what we have to be clear with is that these data centers have to pay their own way. They can't be on the back of regular ratepayers, and our state law are not where they need to be. We need to make sure that when the data centers come, they pay their own freight, they bring their own power, and ratepayers are protected.
And how can energy efficiency help ratepayers?
Energy efficiency helps ratepayers because it means that there's less need to build more natural gas plants. There's less need to build more transmissions line. There's less need to have more distribution line. What we want is to have the lowest cost we possibly can, and all of those things, producing the energy, transmitting the energy, distributing the energy, all of that adds cost, and then we have to pay for it. So that to the extent we can lower the need to produce more energy, then we will lower the costs that we have to pay down the road.
Bringing back to facilities like this, how do these training facilities help meet that need?
Well, what we need is to make sure that companies like Trane have the workforce that they need to service these very high-tech energy efficiency products. And the way that the workforce is a lot of folks who've done this kind of sophisticated HVAC work are getting ready to retire. So there is incredible opportunity for people to come get credentials and do HVAC work for big companies, small companies, and help us to achieve our energy efficiency goals. My view is that if you want to go to a four-year college, we want you to have that opportunity. But a bachelor's degree is not right for every person, and someone shouldn't need to have one in order to earn an income to support his or her family. All right. Thanks, everybody, for being here.
Great job.
Thanks, Dave.
Appreciate you coming.
Oh, that's great.
Governor, thank you for being here.
Yeah,
Could I
great.
get a photo with you real
Really
quick?
impressive that you just learned that and you can like articulate it back. Like,
Well,
that
you
was
just
super
told me.
impressive. I know.
All right. The office of the governor, Governor Josh Stein, putting forth that press conference on clean energy in North Carolina. Energy has been top of mind here throughout the course of the war in Iran, as people here in the United States have felt it at the pump. Those prices continue to go up. And of course, prices on other things will continue to grow up as companies have a more expensive time transporting their goods, supply chains being impacted. Clean energy, something that obviously being a bit of a focus in North Carolina. So we wanted to make sure we diversified a little bit with some of our content today to make sure that we are getting a full scope of the energy industry while we move forward here. Now, moving forward, we're going to take a commercial break here. When we get back, we've got a couple more updates that we want to go through. We told you we'd keep an eye on that fire in Chicago. That live feed has gone off for us. So in terms of that fire, we no longer have a visual of it, which is why we haven't gone back out there just yet. All right, let's take a brief commercial. We'll be right back. Welcome back. That was Olivia's voice that you just heard there very briefly as we try to make sure that we have everything in order here for the end of this show. And I know I'm a little scattered here because we are just getting some word of a major event in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I am going to work very quickly here while live on air with you to see if I can find some more information on what we're receiving. What we do know is a message from our digital team just crossed the AP wire. Don't have any further information at the moment. Winston-Salem, North Carolina police are responding to a mass shooting at a park in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Again, that is the headline that we received from our digital team seconds ago here. And so I am going to work as we speak to try and find some more information, but for the time being, if there was any more information, I think that we would have it coming through our inbox with our digital team. So that is something that we do not have right now, but that is, you know.
I got something. Sending it to you right now.
Okay, Olivia is sending me some updates as we speak, and so you are kind of, you know, for those of you who are regular viewers of the program, you know that sometimes this happens where we are kind of working through our process while we are on air with you. You know, sometimes that is a part of what we do here is we get breaking news and we have to work to bring it to you while live on air, and that is what we are doing as we speak. But we do have an update here. This is 11:42 a.m. Last update at 11:47 a.m. This is 11:53 a.m. the current time. So this appears to be a very recent update here. State investigators responding to a mass shooting at a park in Winston-Salem near a middle school. The North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation confirmed. Now, that brings us to a Facebook page for the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation. The update there is that the North Carolina SBI, State Bureau of Investigation, is currently responding to a shooting on Robin Hood Road near Jefferson Middle School. The shooting is not at the school, but in Linebach Park. The school is on lockdown until the scene is secure. Several people have been shot with 2 deceased. People should avoid the area for now. And again, that is coming from the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation Facebook page, which was linked to by WLOS ABC 13 News, which is where we're getting our updates now, one of the local stations in that area. So again, let's go through this once more, okay? Currently responding to a shooting on Robin Hood Road near Jefferson Middle School. The shooting is not at the school, but in Linebach Park. The school is on lockdown until the scene is secure. Several people have been shot with 2 deceased. People should avoid the area for the time being. So I guess maybe our next step here as we continue to search for more information is, Olivia, if we could pull up a map with that location on it. Olivia's all over it. She has already got that pulled up. And there you see Linebach Park. I hope I'm pronouncing that right for anyone familiar with the area. And there you see how close it is to Jefferson Middle School. But again, and there's Robin Hood Road Family YMCA. This obviously, there's a kids center, it looks like, over to the right. This obviously an area that is frequented by families and kids. A middle school, a YMCA, a park, a kids center, and then what looks like residential areas and lots of green space. This appears to be obviously a family-oriented area, and so we're just getting word just recently here that there has been a shooting at that park, and that school is on lockdown, but the shooting was not at the school, but in the park. Several people have been shot with 2 deceased. Again, that is coming via the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation Facebook post is where we're getting that particular information. So we will look for updates as we remain on air with you for the next couple of minutes here. Obviously, we're sort of nearing the end of our stream, but we want to make sure we stay on this for as long as we've got you here. The police department said several roads are closed as law enforcement responds to the incident. That includes Norman Road, Robin Hood Road, Sally Kirk Road. That would be Norman Road at Robin Hood Road and Sally Kirk Road at Norman Road. And again, you see the park there. Would you mind if we could zoom in a little bit, Olivia, just get a sort of a closer view? Okay, no problem. Take your time. Take your time. So 2 dead, multiple hurt. We just get a look at that park there, and it looks like that whole area kind of is the park, right? Our red sort of location marker is in the parking lot, but there you can get a look at sort of that street level view. You see some what appear to be some tennis courts there, a playground, again, lots of green space, and just right across the street there are what look like residential homes. I mean, right across the street. So we certainly are hoping for a minimal casualties here, but we already know that 2 people are deceased. There's a Walgreens right across the way. I mean, this is sort of a very classic family residential area from what we can tell. And I'm getting another update here. And according to the Winston-Salem Police Department, an initial investigation suggests that a planned fight involving 2 young people led to the shooting. Police said multiple individuals began shooting at each other and the situation escalated, and there are multiple victims. So a planned fight involving 2 young people led to this shooting. We'll be back here at 1 p.m. for more Live Impact News. We certainly hope to have more information on what obviously is a very sad day over in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Starting in just 2 minutes here at noon on 13 News Now, we'll have our linear broadcast. Then at 1 o'clock, Live Impact News. We'll certainly work to get you more details as this situation develops. For the time being, that'll do it for us here on Live Impact News. For Olivia Benner, I'm Connor Real. Thanks for being with us this morning. We hope to see you later today or tomorrow as well. And let's all sort of think about this situation and hope for the best for everyone involved.